Hello and good morning, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Existential Healer podcast. I am the Existential Healer and I am bringing this reading to you. Hi, how you doing? Good morning. Today's theme, I guess, is innocence. I already have a card on the table. It's baby, the card baby, and it says reconnect with your innocence. So we might be talking about inner child, but I really want to focus on being an adult and still obtaining innocence within your life and the difference between innocence and being naive. So with that being said, settle in, get comfy, get something to drink. Remember that this is a collective reading, so try to tune into the information being given. If something doesn't resonate with you, it is not meant for you. That's okay. Not everything is meant for you. But yeah, with that being said, I first of all wanted to start off with a passage in a book that I tend to go to when I want like spiritual inspiration, I guess. It's called Original Self by Thomas More. He just has really cool little passages on different aspects of life, but in this chapter or whatever, I don't even think they're chapters, he says naivety and cynicism mark the failure to achieve innocence. So, like I said, we're learning the difference between being naive and being innocent. To live an ethical life and to feel comfortable with oneself, it is necessary to achieve a degree of innocence. We may think it's mature to be cynical or immature to be innocent, but most of us need to feel liberated from the weight of heavy karma, free of guilt, and in some way guileless in the eyes of the world. Naivety, again, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, I'm doing my best. Naivety is the failure to grow up and enter adult life. Americans are naive in many ways, sometimes identifying with noble values while acting out in outrageously self-serving and violent ways. Our naivety blinds us to our actual values and to the disasters that we inflict. So, we as people, as human beings, he talks about Americans specifically, but I think that overall as humans tend to act selfishly and then act innocent when we're being held accountable for said actions. Whereas if we were acting out of innocence the entire time, we wouldn't be in the situation. We wouldn't be naive enough to commit said actions, and we wouldn't be cynical enough to be able to emotionally, again, commit said actions. So he continues to say, this is not to say that we are all villains or that we do no good, but we are deluded by an innocence complex, a false self-image that is cleaner than the ones that the facts show. We believe ourselves to be innocent, and yet in every sphere we act corruptly. In many cultures, corruption is an art, but we want to have it both ways. We want a clear conscience and the freedom to act deviously. The result is not only to confuse those from other cultures who have to deal with us, but in the depths of our hearts to deprive us of the genuine innocence we need. This is depending on like how you practice spirituality or whatever, if you believe in the works of the devil or just negative spirits and how they sort of kind of test you or push you in negative directions sometimes, false innocence or being naive can be one of those self-limiting negative thought patterns that we can get stuck in, because again, it's kind of like a cop-out or like making excuses for our behavior and like co-signing poor behavior just because we're like, oh, I didn't know any better. But really, there's usually an element where you knew a little bit better in one way and just decided not to follow it. Confusion about innocence has disastrous effects on our behavior and attitudes. If we do not feel innocent, we may give in to cynicism, and then all values become irrelevant. So if we don't feel empowered to feel innocent, then we may just assume that we are evil or bad or just can't get anything right. You know, there's a lot of people with that mindset of, okay, well, if I can't do this right, then I can't do anything right. So when we don't allow our innocence to breathe and exist, then that's when we find ourselves pushing negative narratives on ourselves. Yeah. So to continue, it says, in alchemy, after a long and difficult process of sorting and uniting, a white bird is pictured flying out of the retort of transformation. This bird may be seen as the innocence that is achieved after a long struggle with temptations toward corruption. That's what it is, temptation. So again, in like religious practices, temptation is the work of the devil. Okay, he puts temptations there in order to get you further from God. But I think temptation can come from a lot of places. I think that we can even give temptations to ourselves out of lack of wanting to evolve. This kind of innocence arrives only late in the process, after much toil and experiment. It is hard won, but it is a sign of the soul's evolution. Okay, so here is where he brings it all home. Innocence won only after years of struggle toward a deeply ethical life in a culture torn between naive ideals and cynical behavior allows one to accept oneself absolutely, to forgive oneself for past ignorance and stupidity, and to breathe the invigorating air of qualified purity. So, it all comes down to our intentions in life. Why are we doing the things that we do? And are we doing it because we want to? Are we doing it out of habit? Are we doing it because it's easier? In my opinion, it's much easier to be a shitty person. Okay, it's very easy to be a shitty person, especially to others, especially to myself. So I think that being a shitty person, a poor community member, or just a asshole in a relationship is one of the easiest things you can do, because again, like it said, there's no evolution of the soul in that role. You are accepting that sort of personality behavior as your own. You see it a lot in young men today where it's like, oh, that's how I was raised, so that's just how I am. That sort of behavior, that is naive ideals. That's also cynicism. I think that innocence comes in when we talk about how we are responsible for what we do, of course, but we are not all knowing. Like, if your intention is pure, then whatever you did, you can't be upset with yourself. And to keep away from the cynicism starts with self-forgiveness, and keeping away from being naive or ignorant starts with wanting to know more, wanting to learn, wanting to understand, and being able to be open to understanding new perspectives, and knowing you don't have to hold everything that everyone tells you. Everything that I'm telling you today, you don't have to, it doesn't have to change your life. You don't have to keep it with you or anything, but the fact that you're sitting here listening to someone speak about their perspective shows that you are thus open to new perspectives and open for evolution. So I'm gonna start pulling cards on this innocence and see if we can get some more information. And we're just gonna see, I don't know. I don't even want to ask a question yet. I just want to see what the cards have to say about innocence. What does Spirit have to say about innocence? Okay, so we've got beginnings with Goddess Tara and Prince Pentacles. I'm going to read beginnings out of the book just because I don't know who Tara is. But all of the major arcana in this deck have a goddess to go with it, which I think is super cool. But anyways, beginnings. Tibetans believe that the goddess Tara has the power to heal all sorrows and grant all wishes. Tara is honored as the protectress against the many fears that block men and women from living in happiness and harmony. Meaning, innocence, which protects new, oh my god, new beginnings, optimism, and innocent trust. Okay, so Spirit says that innocence comes from trusting, once again, that you are a pure person. Whatever mistakes you've made, you made them. That's it. You made them, okay? But we're not living when you made those mistakes. We're living with today. So it begins now with being able to trust yourself to make good decisions today. Guilt tripping yourself for the rest of your life is not going to give you anything, or the people that you hurt anything, or whoever was at fault when it came down to your ignorance. Like, guilt, shame, fear, and just like anger. I wouldn't say, I'm not going to group anger in, but guilt, shame, and fear serve us nothing. They give us absolutely nothing. And it was crazy because last night I was thinking, I was like in my room or whatever, and it was kind of dark, and I was kind of at the point where I was like, why am I afraid of the dark? Even if there's something lurking in the dark and it can take my life, it's gonna take it anyways. Like, there's no point in being afraid because it still happens, or it doesn't happen, and I just don't have to experience the fear. You know what I mean? Like, letting go of having to hold on to, I don't know what that is. But it was kind of innocent trust in that whatever it is, whether there's a monster here to eat me or whether there's not, whatever is existing in my reality right now, I'm meant to experience this. So why don't I just innocently just live through it and let it happen, whatever it is, so I don't have to experience that fear element. I can get rid of the fear, because no matter what, again, if there's a monster in my room, it's probably going to eat me no matter how afraid I am. Like, that's not going to help me in any way. Same with shame. If you've done something that you feel shameful about, you did it. Like, your shame is not undoing it. You know what I mean? Your shame is not undoing however something happened, however you said something, whatever it is that you feel shameful about. It doesn't undo the shameful incident. Same with guilt. It doesn't undo whatever you feel guilty about. You're just experiencing this emotion, and usually, especially with shame, fear, and guilt, you experience it at such a high volume that you're not really able to experience much else. Like, you get bits of joy and happiness when happy things happen, you know what I mean? But you're so focused on guilting yourself and making yourself feel bad for something that you did, that you don't really get to progress out of that. So that's why forgiveness is really, really huge. Beginnings kind of point us in the direction of forgiveness, because it's like starting over, being like recognizing that at that point you were a person who was okay with making that decision at this point, again, because if you feel guilty or shameful, you no longer are okay with your actions. Okay, so the fact that you even feel fear, or I mean shame or guilt, is proof enough that you're already evolving. But don't get stuck on that point. You no longer align with what you once did. That's fine. You're allowed to change and evolve. I think that's the whole point of life. But the point is not to evolve into guilt and shame. The point is to evolve past it and realize why making those decisions were so harmful. Why it's so important to have your intention based within yourself, because no one else has anything to do with you. No matter how much you love someone or care for anyone, they have nothing to do with you ultimately. They might add to your life, and that's a great thing. They might take from your life. Either way, your intention being based within yourself allows you the ability to live for yourself, okay? And if you have guilt and shame surrounding things that you did to yourself or situations you put yourself in, or situations that you didn't actually do enough, no matter what, feeling that way is not going to change the situation. But the forgiveness starts with you. If you literally did it to yourself, you can forgive yourself. And I think the same goes with other people. If your guilt or shame surrounds another person and how you made them feel, you can try making amends. But if you don't think that's going to bring the actual peace into your life, because hurt people, then forgive yourself for them. Do a little ceremony, do whatever it takes to rid yourself of these feelings and regain this innocence that we're talking about today, because liberating yourself from those feelings that you've been holding on to for so long and re-engaging with innocence allows you to find this beginning, allows you to feel renewed, allows you to act accordingly to what you actually resonate with, how you actually feel about life. But as long as we're holding on to our guilt and shame, we are assigning like a name badge that I am a shameful person, I'm a guilty person. No, you're not. You're just experiencing guilt or shame, and you haven't been told how to walk out of that. We also got the Prince of Pentacles, and I think whenever I see the Prince now, the Prince of anything, I sort of just get this idea of innocence and maturity and immaturity. You think about boys growing into men at this Prince age where they're like teenagers or whatever. And especially for boys and men, if you identify with that gender or anything, growing up in this world, you sort of have to choose between innocence and, you have to choose between being naive. Sorry, that word is really hard for me. Being naive and being cynical. Like you're either a man's man or you're a mama's boy. Okay, that's, in my experience, that's usually what boys are given the option of being. And the two sides of the coin usually look down on each other because one is emotionally deprived and the other one is like either physically deprived or whatever. The two just see faults in each other, but they're both missing the point of being innocent and kind of like not giving into having to choose a side. That's kind of the whole idea of life right now in society and stuff, is that we have to be someone, be something, and if you're not the most righteous version of yourself, then you should be guilty or shameful or fearful. But yeah, so we've got this version of maturity over here. So you're kind of at the point where you either choose maturity or immaturity, and maturity means grasping your innocence, and this is sort of like a mentality that you will have to work for. I apologize if you can hear construction noises in the background. We're gonna work with it. But this is a point, again, that you have to consciously be active in your journey and take yourself past your limiting beliefs. This is a point where Spirit is telling you that you're going to have to be an active participant in this part of your journey. It's not going to come easy, just like we were talking about with alchemy. You're going to have to experiment with what it feels like and start accepting the idea of innocence and holding yourself accountable. When are you feeling naive and when are you feeling innocent? Knowing the difference. If we still don't know the difference, feeling naive might feel like if you've ever seen a child kind of like sink into their shoulders or look up like with the top of their eyes, like the puppy eyes look, or they say, I don't know, they obviously know. Okay, so being naive is kind of like accepting ignorance, and I agree that ignorance is not always one's fault. It's just a lack of information. But sometimes we accept ignorance instead of accepting fault, and we just act like we're ignorant. So holding yourself accountable in those times. Again, you don't have to feel shameful for being ignorant or being naive. It's just kind of a challenge to you from your soul's evolution and journey point of saying, okay, do you really want to feel naive right now? Or maybe can you feel innocent and admit to your mistakes if they really truly are mistakes? Or maybe you can admit to the outright cynicism that you've committed, or that sounds really like tough or whatever, but maybe you did something out of being jealous or being petty, or someone just really got under your skin and you felt that anger. Do you really feel that way, or do you just want to let that go? Okay, do you want to accept this beginning, and do you want to reclaim your innocence? So yeah, I'm gonna keep going with the oracle deck and see if we have any more messages about obtaining innocence, getting comfortable with innocence, what this innocence means to our soul. What is this innocence? Okay, this is exciting. So we've got fire spirit energy, number 17. We've got mystic meadow sanctuary, number 26, and elves playfulness, number 15. So fire spirit and energy. A few days ago on the podcast, I talked about how caring for yourself and soul evolution and spiritual evolution always brings a new energy. You feel replenished. You feel like you get your energy back, your innocent energy back. I remember, like, as a kid, or just even watching children play with themselves or whatever, you see a lot of energy. Like, it's always divine curiosity and energy, and I don't know, I remember having that at one point in life and then not having that. And then I started committing to like my spiritual evolution, and I kind of found that coming back. I found my energy coming back to me, and I was surprised at first, but then it made sense because I was no longer being drained into the feelings of shame, guilt, fear, anger, etc., etc. When you accept this innocence, and when you start acting out of intention instead of reaction, you are like, no one is claiming your energy without your permission. You are literally sending your energy to specific points and keeping the rest for a different point, you know? And to be in control of your energy is such an amazing thing. Because again, it's so hard, especially in this world, in this society. You can see it just walking down the street. It's so hard for us to be able to claim our energy and say, yeah, that's me, I did that. Yeah, energy. I don't know where I was going with that, but continuing on, Mystic Meadow Sanctuary. So this one, right before playfulness, this one is sort of telling us that we're going to learn a lot about our innocence when we go within, when we go into meditation. If you didn't listen to yesterday's episode, it was about extreme self-nourishment and creating space within yourself. And I kind of gave the kingdom example, whereas if you were to rule over your body as if it were a kingdom, and making sure that the people are treated fairly, that they have like temperate climates, you know, according to our emotions, making sure that they're nourished with water and food and whatever else it is that they would need, you know. So this Mystic Meadow Sanctuary idea is I think that innocence and imagination kind of go hand in hand. If you're able to use your imagination with this sanctuary idea and create your sanctuary, and even just challenge your imagination, like I was talking about earlier, is opening your mind to new ideas and new perspectives. Walking in the meadow, or doing things for no reason, or doing things not to be productive, but just to experience them. That is where innocence kind of finds its like solid form. In this card, we see 3 animals. There's a fox, a big grizzly bear, and a rabbit with like this king's garb on. And I don't know what the rabbit's doing, but with the three animals, again, when you can observe nature or animals in any way, you once again are being able to see innocence in its true form, because I'm not going to say all animals, I don't know if that's really true, but most animals don't have ulterior motives. Yeah, you get to see innocence, like you get to see motive out of just experiencing life. Animals don't plan their lives out. They don't want bigger caves or bigger or holes. They don't want really anything. They just kind of experience things, and they're innocent in this world, because they literally are just here to exist. And it's kind of cool. I've been learning about like animal communicators lately and how they use telepathy to speak to animals. A lot of people do it in like veterinary work, where an animal is sick and they will the communicator will go through their energy field and see if there is a physical illness or if there's an emotional illness. And I didn't really realize, but like a lot of animals have mental health issues. If you sit and tell your dog every day that it's stupid, it kind of adopts this like idea, this persona, or this like just idea of itself that it is a stupid dog. And then it has this like hurt, I won't say ego because it's not coming from ego, but it just has this skewed view on its own capabilities, and then it seems to act in correlation with that idea. And so this is like an innocent creature being met with a human who has an ego and is acting out of immaturity or whatever it is. I don't know. I think that this card is just trying to tell us that you can learn about innocence. Again, if you're not grasping it, you can learn about innocence in a lot of different ways. If you look at babies, if you look at nature, if you look at animals, there's a lot of different ways you can really experience innocence and try to develop it into your own life. And then we have elves, playfulness. I feel like I know where this is going, but I really want to read it out of the book because I haven't gotten this card yet. Number 15. Okay, so it says, the elves have invited you to dance with them under the stars and moonlight. The music begins and you twirl and leap with glee. Elves and fairies dance around you, and the wild spirit of the night fills you. All inhibitions dissolve and you giggle with delight as the spirit of playfulness embraces you. Here it is. Allow your inner child to play. Embrace your innocence. If you have been taking life too seriously, this card reminds you to lighten up. All that is required of you is to enjoy yourself. If your responsibilities and hard work have clogged your life force energy, it's time to give yourself a break and have some fun. Nurture your spirit by doing something unexpected, madcap, or even silly. The greatest gift that you can give the world is your joy, so make play a priority. Like fairies, elves are diminutive beings that live in the forest, meadows, and hollowed out tree trunks. There are accounts of elves throughout history and in every country in the world. Many people attest to having seen them playing in the woods. In some traditions, they are thought to be gleeful tricksters with a reputation for pranks and mischief. Allow this joyous energy into your day now. The spirit of the elves say, embrace your innocence. Oh my gosh. Embrace your innocence, let go of heavy responsibilities, give yourself a break, nurture your spirit by doing something fun. Joy is as important for sustaining yourself as the food you eat. Yeah, I really like that card. Like I was saying, like inner child work is also very important when it comes to innocence and liberating our inner child. This can look like drawing, this can look like listening to music, just having sort of like that element of light, airy joy that kids have. Like, I just remember it being a Saturday and you can watch cartoons. Like, Saturday felt like a week long of just getting to do whatever I wanted to do. So maybe healing my inner child looks like giving myself more Saturdays to do whatever I want to do, and for no reason, you know what I mean? There's just, if everything you do has a reason, give yourself something to do that doesn't have a reason. And it's a super weird thing to say, but think about it. I promise you might come to like a new understanding or whatever. But on top of the inner child, it's with the outer adult that innocence can also be accepted. It doesn't have to be through the inner child, but just being an adult with innocence can add so much to your life. Because like you were saying, you let go of certain responsibilities. Some things just really do not matter. Some things do not matter. Know the difference. Know what matters, and know what you're holding on to or what you're doing because someone told you to do, or because you're doing it out of habit, but it no longer serves you. Sorry, I'm out of breath. There was something else I wanted to say with the elves card. But yeah, just leaning into that urge to be silly, to be reckless. And if anyone looks at you like you're weird, just know that they haven't experienced innocence yet. So you can feel, once again, you can feel guilty or shameful about being silly out in public or whatever, but just know that people will look at you because they don't know what you're experiencing, because they have not experienced their inner child, unfortunately. Yeah, so continuing on with that, I'm gonna pull one more card just because. Whispers of Healing. What is just one last message from Spirit as far as healing goes, as far as, okay, attaining this. Okay, so we've got 4 cards. Should I do all 4 or should I put them back? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put them back real quick. That was a lot right off the bat. Final advice for obtaining this innocence. Okay, so this one came up the first time. I'm glad it came back. It is, oh, there's 2 still. Ah! Okay, so replenish and triggers. Those are the 2 cards we got, and it's number 9 and number 31. So the triggers visually on this card are all in bubbles. You can see like the experiences of the same woman throughout her life. There's a child, there's a younger woman, a middle-aged, and like a really old woman. I think possibly a dead woman. Not like dead, but like a symbolism of death or whatever. Triggers, and they're all in bubbles. So we're thinking about popping these bubbles. Attaining your innocence can mean popping your bubbles, popping your triggers, because when you pop a bubble, it dissipates, it no longer exists. So reacquiring your innocence, or just acquiring your innocence, your alchemical innocence in this life, can start with your triggers. Like I was saying earlier, we do a lot of things out of habit or reaction, whether it be guilt, shame, or fear. Again, if you dissipate or you pop the bubble, the trigger that makes you feel guilty, then it no longer exists. You will no longer feel guilty, okay? If you pop the bubble that, or the trigger that makes you feel angry, you will no longer feel anger, okay? And we might have multiple bubbles for multiple feelings or whatever, but this is the time to start working on these things, these triggers. And like I was saying earlier, again, this is a conscious process. You have to be present. So sorry for those dogs. You have to be present in the process of getting rid of your triggers. That's not something that you just like pray away, or you have enough stones or herbs for. Triggers are a mental thing that you mentally have to work on ridding yourself of. This is going to be hard work, just like the book said. This is going to be challenging work, but you are capable of it. We know that, otherwise you wouldn't be here. It's the message right now is about choosing yourself and choosing your healing, choosing your divine ability to evolve spiritually, energetically, emotionally, even physically, okay? Allowing ourselves to have innocence and ridding ourselves of fear, shame, guilt, etc., can rid many physical ailments that we deal with. I've talked about it before, but the body carries the score. There's a whole book on it, but the emotions that we attach ourselves to without questioning can reside within us in physical ways. So when you're thinking about your kingdom again, if you're having like headaches or stomach issues or whatever, the people that live in that area are not having a good time, okay? It's not, I don't know if I would consider my people to like be in pain or anything, but they definitely could do without the pain, without the whatever it is that you're experiencing. So healing your physical pain might come, there might be spiritual answers to your physical ailments, is kind of what I'm saying. And then we also got replenish as a final little advice piece from Spirit, is replenish. I'm going to read this one out of the book. Number 31. Okay. Says, it is not possible to be happy or at your best all the time. Having depleted energy or off days is a natural part of everyday life. However, it is how you manage those times when you are energetically low that is important. It is imperative to take care of your emotional energy just as you take care of your physical well-being. This means addressing depression, fear, mood swings, anger, or feeling drained of energy. Having strategies for coping and replenishing yourself, such as an exercise program. Identify ways of regrouping and gaining control of your energy. There are benefits to scheduling a day each month that is just for you. This day can be whatever you would like it to be. Sleep in, watch a favorite movie while enjoying a favorite treat, make a dinner date with a friend, or just catch up for a chat. Doing something that makes you feel good will help revitalize your energy. When you're in a healing process, depression can be a challenge. Make sure you take steps to address depression early on. Talk to people about how you're feeling, and if you need, get help organizing time for something you enjoy. Just like I was talking about my Saturdays, that could be, that's the same thing in different words, is reserving time for you to feel that innocence and feel that just space to exist and not have to be anything to anyone, okay? A beautiful woman unwinds in satin sheets while a bustle of activity goes on around her. Take care of yourself. It is up to you to replenish your energy. The color lilac represents the future, your imagination, and your dreams. Lilac is grounding. It also inspires and enhances psychic ability and spiritual enlightenment. You are resilient. You will overcome anything that comes your way. A difficult period is diminishing and moving into your past. I think that overall, just accepting the ability to replenish and the ability to rest and just be still and let the world turn for one day without you having to be in it, is so freeing and allows you to, it's kind of like practicing the idea of just not having to exist or matter to the world so much for one day, gives you freedom the next time to be like, yeah, this really doesn't pertain to me and my life, my world. The whole thing with like creating your own sanctuary in the meadow, it's kind of like living in the world that you want to live in. There were a lot of things, social media specifically, that I had to get rid of in order for my world to be peaceful. Now, I do like to be aware of current events going on and things happening, but like climate change for me, okay, I'm gonna overshare. Climate change is like a huge trigger for me because, again, since I was a child, like I was terrified of the world just burning up. Like I saw the 2012 movie or the 2016 movie or whatever it was where the world ended, and then just adopted that fear as a child. And even today now, I hear certain people talking about new findings, and it can be good news or bad news, but the reality of climate change to me is very triggering. So I couldn't be on TikTok every single day because a lot of my For You page or whatever had to do with climate change. And the way I think about it is that I'm sitting here today, like on June 23rd, climate change will not be solved by the end of today, will not be solved by June 24th, and it will not end the world by the end of the day. And if it does, again, I don't really have control over that, but either way, today I will not be making any changes to the reality of climate change. So with that being said, I put this down and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to feel guilty or fearful about it. on certain days I pick that back up and I'm like, okay, today's the time to work on this. Today's the time to be active about this. But I cannot do it every day because that is one thing that really drains me. So I pop the triggers. I replenish myself. I let the world turn without me having to have my foot in it, you know. I hope that that was a helpful explanation, but anyways, replenish yourself. Allow the world to turn without you having to be so active in it. It's okay. There's actually the idea of fear of missing out, the FOMO, fear of missing out. So we engage in things like people invite us somewhere and we go just because we have the fear of missing out whatever they're going to be doing. And then, at least in my experience, I'll go and know that I would have had a better time if I stayed home than going out with these people. Not that I don't like these people, it's just this isn't particularly what I would like to be doing with my time. I would even love to do something different with these people. It's not the people, it's the thing that I'm doing. But I went because I was afraid of missing out, or I was afraid of coming off as the wrong person, or I was definitely like acting out of people-pleasing ideas. But obtaining this ability to replenish myself and again let the world turn without having to be an active participant for one day, and that's my rule. It's just like, just for today I will not feel fear. Just for today I will not think about the climate crisis. Just for today I will not be triggered by my anger. But tomorrow I can be angry. Tomorrow I can have an entire panic spiral about the climate crisis. But today I'm freeing myself of this. I'm accepting my innocence in this role, because again, my innocence means that I cannot change the climate crisis just myself, okay? Like, that is an ultimate truth. Sitting in my home, just myself, I cannot do anything so extreme that it would change it would like reverse the entire crisis. So with that truth being said, today I will let the world turn and I will replenish myself. I will release my triggers and I will accept my innocence. That last sentence could be a really good affirmation for some people. If you're willing, feel free to write it down or anything. But yeah, anyways, I think that's all I have for you guys today. Innocence is really important. I am really glad that we had this episode today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.